back to another episode of VCTV. That's right, a double episode Monday. It is Partner Monday. We've got 2 episodes with different sets of investors to talk with you about all that's happening in the latest and different technologies, emerging markets, regions, industries, and everything else in between around the world. This is going to be an exciting episode. We just talked a little bit about work and remote tech and how those things are changing the way that we collaborate, the way we engage, key word for something we're going to be talking about today, and how we interact with each other. And not just in certain industries, but in all industries, whether that be in education, whether that be in healthcare, whether that be in industrial or anything in between, including payments, as we talked a little bit about as well. But today, on this episode of VCTV, we're talking about social media. We're talking about fundraising in and through social media. We're talking about how social media is impacting and how big social media has gotten and how social media has changed, because it has, the way that we're looking at collaborating, the way that we're looking at engaging, looking at the way that we're interacting with one another, and the new fundraising process. Because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all in our audience, here's the deal. We all get pitched through social media in some way, shape, or form. Social media is a great opportunity, an outstanding gateway to get and connect with investors at any level. If you don't think so, we're all here to tell you how it's happened to us, why it's happening, where the opportunities are, and how to do it right, along with some other goodies in between. So with that, to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in today. We're excited to have you. If you like what you hear during today's episode, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to be on our show, investors, reach out. We'd love to have you. You can have the chance to get up on stage, our virtual stage, as we refer to it here on Zoom. You can have the chance to join us, share your knowledge, share your thoughts, what you're seeing, what you may not be seeing as upcoming and emerging trends and activities in different areas of technology or regions around the world. We'd love to have you reach out to Elena, to LATOKEN, or myself, and we'll do our best to place you on the best panel for you. Entrepreneurs, there is a spot for you. Do not worry. We have a virtual stage set up just for you where you get the chance to come on and pitch us as investors live and our entire audience as well. So reach out. We'd love to have you and join us as well. And also a big thank you to Elena and to the entire LATOKEN team for making VCTV possible every single day on your screen, on your device, anywhere in the world. That being said, let's dive in. It is time to talk about social media, everybody. I think in between our break, between shows, and that about 15 minutes, I had 1 or 2 pitches come through on both Twitter and LinkedIn. So I know there's a lot of activity, and because things have changed and we are so connected more than ever through social media, and we are living our new digital lives 24/7, 365 online, we're seeing this as a more active route of engagement between investors and entrepreneurs, whether that be in the crowdfunding realm, so something like Republic or AngelList or others, to direct investments, whether that be as us as VCs, angels, or family offices. We're seeing this across the board. I would love for each of you, after we get through introductions, I want to dive into what this means to you and how it's acting or how you may be reacting as well to it. So without further ado, let's get to the introductions. Alessandro, welcome back. We had your partner on just moments ago talking about the metaverse and how it is here today. And I'm excited to dive in that a little bit further with you. But first, introductions and background.
Hi, Kyle and Elena. Thanks for hosting me again here. I'm Alessandro Marianantoni. I'm in Los Angeles, and this accent is not from Santa Monica. I'm from Italy. I've been in Los Angeles for about almost 20 years. I'm founder director of Accelerator. It's a hybrid version of accelerator and incubator program. We work with students, early stage startups, later stage companies. As Kyle mentioned, I have a partner on a new venture. It's Accelerator Venture One. It's a $40 million fund we're building with Noble Drug Loan here in California, and we're interested in investing in international businesses and opportunities. And I look forward to talk about the topic here. My strongest background is definitely software development. I've been And I started very early. I think I was 8 when I started coding, and I got a C64 as a gift with an instruction book. And the book was talking about BASIC. So I thought that was the instruction for the toy, and that's how I started. And then, of course, I moved along. I've also spent 10 years in the academia here at the University of California, Los Angeles, developing, researching, and designing lots of different projects in many fields. So I believe that this experience that I had with technology really put me in a great spot to see many different industries and opportunities across a very large spectrum.
Absolutely, and we're super excited to have you back as well. And I'm a little jealous. You got about a 2-year head start on me on coding there, but nonetheless, it's great to be joined with a fellow developer as well. That being said, Alexis, it's been a whole 15 minutes since I've seen you, and I missed you dearly ever since. But welcome back to the show. A little intro and background for those who may be tuning in that might not know you.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Elena, to have me back. So I'm Alexis Grabar. I'm a serial entrepreneur based in London, French and American by citizenship, but clearly global, and looking at investments through social media. So I spent 10 years of my life in the corporate world with Airbus, and now 18 years building up startups in London, but trying to grow them globally. And the last 5 years, my angle was to raise money through social media, which I did through a French platform called IOMI. And I was part, Alexandro, you mentioned incubators of EF, Entrepreneur First, in London and in Paris with Station F. So I'm part of the venture capital community in London, but also an entrepreneur building up my own companies and investing my own money into startups.
Wonderful. Naveed, introduction, a little background.
Hello, everyone. I'm Naveen from our Ventures, and we're an investment platform helping startups raise funds through our platform in the country. I take care of the investor relations as well as I take care of the startup support services, where we help startups raise funds through the network that is already subscribed to the platform, as well as those who are not ready for funding. We help them through the various services under the startup support services. And yes, social media is one of the biggest service that we always promote to our startups, because we believe and that's the only way to create a buzz around your business, the only way to create a buzz around your service and reach out to most of the people. Our ventures, we've helped around 48 startups raise funds to us, and it has been a great journey since last 5 years that we've helped raise 180 crores or maybe up to $25 million of funds for the startup so far. Even in the last 5 or 6 months, where there have been interesting times, we've been fortunate enough to close up to 4 deals and have many more deals to come in the pipeline.
Wonderful. Excited to unpack that. But before we do, a good friend from the other side of the ocean, who's teaching me all about the new world of gaming exploding throughout India. Pranav, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background.
Thanks for having me back, Carl. Thanks, Elena, once again. Great to interact with everybody here. I am an accidental investor. I am a lawyer by qualification who didn't want to pursue his qualification. I was in a 4th-generation family business, which led to me running a small family office based out of Mumbai, India. And as an accidental investor, my first investment that actually came about, leveraged the power of social media through crowdfunding. And it was a consumer product based out of India, and 21-year-old kids selling a $400 chessboard to the rest of the world, where everybody thought they were crazy. And everybody thought it was impossible. And they've effectively, over the past 6 years, showcased the ability of good product to, sell globally, using the power of social commerce, using the power of the people, and just using the quality of the product as the shining beacon of light. I run an early stage incubator / accelerator based out of Mumbai called Thincubate, where we run a 12 to 18 month long program. and invest capital in each of the companies that we sort of incubate. The idea being that we're sector agnostic to the extent that we bring value that's more than money. As Kyle mentioned, I am a huge proponent of the Indian gaming and sports ecosystem, as not just a consumer, but as somebody who's running a few companies in this space from a family office operationally, and simultaneously as an investor with a portfolio as it stands today of about 7 companies in sport and close to 30 across the board in the Indian ecosystem. So glad to be back and really excited to talk about all things social commerce and social media.
I love it. And guys, welcome all back to the show. There's a lot to unpack here. And I do just want to start with the overarching is, where are things currently? Social media has changed, I would say in a big way over the past year. The platforms have widened. We've seen a huge disbursement in where people are spending their time, also how they're leveraging social media platforms, right? We've seen the TikToks and the Trillers and the Snapchats of the world where people are engaging with short form video and a little bit of Instagram. We see how, the WeChats and the WhatsApp and the Lines and others are impacting not just communication, but also integrating technologies like fintech and contactless payments where there may not have been. We're also seeing changes throughout the board. And Alessandro, we talked a little bit about how, the metaverse or the virtual world is starting to really explode right now. We've talked in previous episodes of VCTV, the virtual economy is a $100+ billion economy over the next 5 years, and where people are engaging and interacting, not just online as we are now, but also in a virtual environment as well, and a virtual economy that's being built up around this. We saw the early days of both gaming and a social economy get created, but now this is really starting to take place on both worlds. And even in gaming, whether it be Discord, Twitch, or many other platforms, including Slack, have all started to thrive more than I think anyone have ever expected. And not only are they thriving in terms of communication, but building new relationships. And that's changing how we are looking at things as investors, as we are now being reached out to on each of these platforms as well. So I'd love to come around and get each of your opinion on kind of the current state of social media as well. And then we'll get into the fundraising aspect and how that's affecting each of you, and also some of the lessons learned or feedback you'd give, because while we get a lot of pitches, there's a little bit of feedback I think we could each give to those that are out there doing it to improve it. So Alessandro, let's start with you, kind of the current state of social media and social networks as we look towards the future and where things are going to go.
So Kyle, because of my strongest experience comes from everything I've done with software development and being exposed very, very young the technology. And in a way, I was often, if not all the time, the one that was speaking a different language. I was the one that got at home an ISDN connection to be connected all the time. And I believe it was the early 90s in Italy. So I started using MIRC, merch. I don't know how you have, familiar with that, but I'm sure you do if you started using the chat in the early days of internet. So it's been really interesting as over the last maybe 20-30 years, where people around me was getting more and more comfortable. I used to use technology, and then first came Facebook and all the other social media network. So for me, it was something very organic, being there and getting to know a lot of people from all around the world, since I was really, really young on those chat channels, or right. So it has been a very natural way of interacting with thousands of people probably across over the years. And social media it's definitely changed the way and the way we talk and we communicate. So we're talking about creating virtual worlds. We're talking about extending our businesses and getting more accessible to founders, in my case, even founders at the ideation stage. So for me, it's really, it was something really organic also to understand different social media channels in different countries and different age ranges. We are very strong on Instagram, for example. And that's just because, I mean, if you build, at the end, our accelerator incubator is a company, right? If you build your company out of relationships, of course, I mean, we're dealing with 20 years olders, and they are very active on Instagram, less on Facebook, for example. On Facebook, we are very strong in Italy, just because Facebook, more than the US, has that, it's still very strong. I mean, professionally, and let's say for more like friends and family relationship on Facebook. So everything happens on Facebook, essentially. LinkedIn is just starting to be very accepted in I would say in generally in Europe, but in southern Europe, like Spain and Italy, I would say that not everybody still have a LinkedIn account, and if you contact somebody, it's not. They may wait like weeks before they reply to you. They first have to create it, right? It's not that. It's coming up. I mean, I see there are different behaviors, right? I also like. I've been working on so many different fields that I feel like sometimes I'm an anthropologist. So I see that we deal with a lot of students that are about to graduate or newly graduated, right? So they open a LinkedIn account just because they're looking for a job. And that's a very strong behavior for young Italians or young Europeans, I would say, right? In the US, it's definitely way more navigated. I mean, everybody I contacted professionally or because they're a student, they 80–90% of the time, they already have a LinkedIn account. So I definitely use a lot of LinkedIn in my professional relationships. I've been using, I don't even remember since when, but yeah, it was really many years ago. When I upgraded it, I realized how long I had my LinkedIn account. Yeah, because I was still paying something like $30 for a business account. And yeah, it's been really interesting. In terms of, if I kind of a little bit talk about the virtual experience, virtual reality experience, I was also one of the early users of some virtual worlds. I think it was Second Life, but there were a bunch of platforms over there. And I was really amazed the way creative people like I'm in Los Angeles, right? So I've done most of my research in the School of Theater, Film, and Television out of a Remap Research Center, where we were dealing with technology for entertainment. And I was exposed to all of this new plethora of tools for creating virtual experiences and meeting people. So I used to go to conferences. They were just where they were just launching those tools. And I remember even Peter Greenaway launching one of his movies online and giving speeches on Second Life. So it's there are really many components of this, but you know, one last thought is definitely could be easily inspired by creative people using all of social media and virtual reality experiences.
Absolutely. Alexis, to you, I mean, what are you seeing as the current state of social media and social networks as things are moving forward currently?
Yeah, so where I am in London and where I travel, Paris and Moscow mainly, we see clearly the last 2 years social media getting into I would say the elite sphere. To give an example, my business school, HEC, #1 business school in France, has opened last year HEC Ventures to raise 150 million euros of venture capital money. And they're using social media to approach the 55,000 alumni of HEC worldwide to basically invest in this platform. So this was not the case at HEC 2 years ago. Clearly, that was a very elite school going through normal channels of introductions, through emails, etc. And now they are moving to very aggressively to LinkedIn, to Facebook, and to social media to reach out their alumni and to reach out their investors. And HEC is known in France as one of the schools which has the most CEOs of big companies. So it's an interesting field. In the UK, the startups I created over the last 18 years, and I created 6 and sold 3, we used social media to fundraise recently, very successfully. In less than 3 months, we opened the capital of one of my company to raise 100K We did that in 3 months, and we got 35 investors, and 50% of those investors I didn't know 2 months ago. So this is a new world for me, because normally investors I bring into my businesses are people I know and I know for a long time. And now I see people who are on my LinkedIn or on my Facebook who, in a way I don't know, who are following me and investing in what I do. So I think we're living a very new world where basically family offices, we spoke about this with you, Pranav, but you know, people managing billions of dollars. I'm working for the Mullier family, $22 billion family, managing the retail, Auchan, Decathlon, Leroy Merlin empire. Those guys are opening even that to social media investments. So I think this is new for me, that social media is now approaching really spheres of investments or discussion which were very closed in the past.
It's right. I mean, we've talked about this on previous episodes as well, and I'm trying to think of a few different examples. But I mean, just the way social media, and again, I bring crowdfunding into this because there is that social component, and I see everyone shaking their heads. I mean, just the doors it has opened in terms of deal flow from an investor standpoint that you can now see, but then also you get, right, being a part of syndicates, but also just having that access and that channel. I mean, Alessandro's point to Instagram, we've had investors on here that's all they do. They take pitches all day on Instagram, which is wild. But then, you know, looking at the bigger picture as an entrepreneur, it's game on in a good way. I mean, you now got, instead of one channel, a cold email, or two, a warm email through an introduction, you now have 10 plus different channels to get in touch with investors, more than you've ever had before, which can be tough. There's lessons to be learned we're going to get to, but it opens up a whole new world. Naveed, to you, what are you seeing as kind of the current state of social media networks? And then Pranav, we're going to come to you last on this.
Well, we've been fortunate to have most of the action once the unfortunate happened maybe 5 months ago, and we just overnight pivoted all our activities from physical to online. And we were the first ones to realize, and I'm sure Pranav would definitely agree, that here we have to be there, seen doing activities, to be there in the ecosystem where you have to be reaching out to the founders. You have to help entrepreneurs in their journey, because overnight everybody was kind of stuck, and all of a sudden businesses were crashing, businesses were pivoting. At the same time, we used to conduct physical pitch days, and we immediately moved to online pitch days. We started doing a lot of activities in terms of workshops, how to pitch during these times when the physical meetings were absolutely not happening. At the same time, our investor reach also became a lot bigger. We started conducting awareness programs about this alternative investments. And obviously, what happened earlier, when you used to travel a lot, we used to reach out to places and present the business ideas to investors, family offices, and other aspects. What has happened now, the whole event has now just come down to a meeting time, and that leaves us a lot of additional time. And I believe everybody who's not had to travel to meet people for work would find that obviously now we are working for longer period of time. We're working more focused way, because we know when we are conversing one-on-one, we need to have a closure for the thing that we have on our desk right now, rather than we move to the next one. So yes, for the first 10-15 days, obviously everybody got into the webinar mode in India, and they were trying to rope in whatever possible thoughts and knowledge and experts were coming their way, and trying to reach out to people to the ecosystem. And that slowly fizzled out, but yes, now things have moved on, and for every player in the ecosystem, be it a founder, be it an investor, and be an investment platform, everybody is now kind of shaped up to how things are moving in the social media.
Absolutely. Pranav, to you, I mean, what else are you seeing in this current state of?
So I'll just take a step back, right? I think you guys see a lot more deal flow on various platforms. I think India is perhaps a little bit away there. We tend to see a lot more pitches on, I think, Twitter and LinkedIn are perhaps the two most primary platforms where I'd probably have people reach out apart from AngelList and some of the other sort of investment platforms that obviously exist. But maybe let's detach the two, Kyle, what we were talking about, right? When we talk about crowdfunding, right? When there's direct product sales. And then we talk about non-profit sort of fundraising, or potentially then raising money or equity capital from investors, right? In India, to a large extent, when we talk of social media and fundraising, we often fall into this sort of cycle of non-profit charitable donation, right? When people think of fundraising in the social context, it's giving to a cause. It's not buying a product. And I think that is a fundamental shift which the sort of accelerated adoption over the last 12 months has enabled even more. In India, and I mentioned one of our portfolio companies earlier, a company by the name of Trell, where we've seen over 5 million daily active users, surpassing the likes of Twitter and Pinterest in India. And their entire premise is to enable social commerce. The entire premise is to allow the power of the people to remain the power of the people. And I often use this line that, well, the consumer is the cheapest form of financing, right? For every founder. And social media has provided that in sort of spades as sort of ammunition. And I think we're seeing the advent of more innovative ways of raising capital. We love crowdfunded companies. Like I said, my first investment was through a company that was selling $400 chessboards and sold $600,000 worth of product in 30 days. And then went on to raise equity capital. We have another product company right now that was building a $2,500 e-bike, which is the world's safest e-cycle. Again, people thought they're crazy building an e-bike from India, just because nobody in India is buying a $2,500 e-bike. It's just not happening. But they've been able to do about $700,000 of sale off of Kickstarter and Indiegogo, again, in a 45-day window. And they're up and sort of manufacturing, and they're sort of getting their sort of putting in their sort of ducks in the right order and sort of starting to tee off. So I genuinely believe that if you really have the focus and the passion to let the people and the consumer drive you, there's no better place than social media.
I mean, you're spot on. And even crowdfunding is a social media platform. As I said, we're bringing it in. You have to engage. You have to build an audience. You have to engage with that audience. You build a relationship with that audience. It's a very globalized audience. And you learn from their habits or their likes or dislikes on the features that you may integrate as well. So there's a ton of stuff in here. But switching gears now, let's turn to this as us and investors. So is there power in fundraising through social media? And I think we've all kind of said yes, but if there is a little bit of advice that you would give to entrepreneurs who are reaching out to you, or the investors who may be listening as well, trying to figure out this playing field, because again, there's tons of different platforms. We get messaged all the time on different ones. So what advice would you have for those that are reaching out through social media, either to pitch yourself or other investors as well? Pranav, let's start with you. We'll come back around to everybody.
So I think the most important thing for any entrepreneur reaching out to an investor is finding their context. Don't think about your own context and what you can do with your product and how great you guys are and why you're changing the world. I think it's about understanding the right individual to reach out to. I'm not a huge believer in sending out 500 cold emails. I'm just not. I believe in diligently doing your sort of background check and research to see, okay, this is a group of individuals who we could bring value to each other. And sometimes it's studying a fund's portfolio. Sometimes it's studying somebody's inclinations. Sometimes it's following someone on LinkedIn or Twitter and seeing what they like and what they don't like. And I think that's a lot more powerful. So I always say to everybody we speak to, find your context, right? What's your hook to the investor? Because like all of us are saying, deals come everywhere, right? They're on all platforms, and you're constantly being sort of sought out. So how do you grab the attention of any investor, anybody who wants to sort of partner with you or invest in your company? Find the context.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, with social media, we're all talking, we're all engaging and creating content in some way. Follow, learn, listen, and make it relevant. I think that's a great point. Alexis, to you, what advice would you have to those that are looking to start pitching or maybe pitching you on social media networks?
Well, I think on social media, there are 2 or 3 aspects which are key. The first one is speed. If you are in a hurry to fundraise, clearly social media is excellent because it's normally, in the past when I was fundraising or investing in companies, it takes between 3 to 6 to 12 months to do your fundraising. And in the social media, you can do it in less than 2 months with crowdfunding. So speed is clearly a big subject. If you want to go fast, social media is fantastic. The second subject is how much do you want to raise? So obviously, if you want to raise 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 million, I'm not sure social media is the best place because again, due diligence is the subject and you want to make sure that your investors with big ticket investments, you know them, you know who they are, etc. But if you are investing 10K, 50K, 100K, this is a perfect place to have investors with 500 euros or pounds or whatever the currency, because that's quick to do, and social media is the perfect place for this type of investment. And the last point for me would be, which platform to use and what is the cost of social media fundraising. So in the world of fundraising, normally a normal fundraise will cost 3 to 5%. If you add all the costs, involved in the fundraising between the lawyers, the investment platform, the intermediary, whatever, normally those platforms charge you between 7 and 10%. So I will not go higher than that. Fundraising is an expensive subject for founders. It takes a lot of your time and energy. And if you add on the top 10% of the money fundraised, be a bit careful where you put your time and money, basically. And my advice would be to check 2 or 3 platforms before going with one. They are in the markets, and every markets are different. The UK market, the French market, the other markets. Do your due diligence on the platforms.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So context and also audience, and then third, again, do your homework, do your due diligence. We've talked about this on other episodes of VC TV. It's not just investors who do diligence and ask questions. Entrepreneurs should be doing the same thing. And especially with the social media route, it is a much wider spread. To Pranav's point, and Alexis as well, is that you reach so many people, which can be very good at a certain time and very hurtful at another time. So make sure you know where and why you're targeting these different audiences. And there's also the idea, I'll add in between Naveed and Alessandro here, is content built. We build marketing campaigns all day to entice users to come in and engage with our platforms. And we build marketing campaigns to bring people and attract new users to our platforms. Why not also do the same thing when fundraising, right? That's where these social media platforms can really benefit you. To Alessandro's point, you can build pieces of content that tease out little bits and pieces as an entrepreneur, so that when an investor does look back on that platform you reached out to them on, they don't just see your personal feed. They also see this really exciting content drip that you've put together. So something to stay tuned to as well. Naveed, to you, any advice that you may have for entrepreneurs looking to fundraise through social media?
So like I was saying earlier, on social media, an entrepreneur would reach out to, maybe I would categorize 3 types of investors. One would be the seasoned investors, the VCP firms who are kind of very low in the action. They would only speak about when they want to, when there is a new policy change, or when there is a new radical development that has happened in the sector, or maybe there is an amazing huge milestone that has come. So a VCP firm would be active around creating a lot of buzz around the new event that has come in. Then there would be a few individual investors who would promote themselves as investors on social media, like Pranam was saying. A few investments in their portfolio would be seen. So when an entrepreneur is reaching to people, it is always advisable to go to the profile whom you're going to reach out. It's really disheartening when you send invites to a lot of people, or maybe send mails to a lot of people, and then you get replies from very few. And I understand, as a founder, the most disheartening would be when somebody does not even respond to the idea when you pitch it across to you. My advice to the founders would be definitely, one, definitely do your homework well. Create a buzz around your product or service so that as an investor, I would also like to park my money somewhere where the customer, the consumer is also interested in. So first, ensure that the social media that you're doing is also attracting a lot of responses from the customers, the consumers whom you're going to serve, what's the problems that you're going to solve. As an investor, I would definitely like to park my money where the customer is already showing a lot of interest around.
Absolutely. And Alessandro, to you, last piece of advice for anyone, and then I'll have one thing to add as well on that.
Yeah, that's lots of things. Our main work is to train founders, right? So we train them into the art of persuasion on social media. So one suggestion, though, we get a lot of pitch decks from any of all of the channels we're active on. Just programmatically organize your communication. Don't send me like 10 paragraphs talking about your company and then a pitch deck and then a very long PDF, a business deck with 40 slides. So you have to really work out your strategy into making it. So don't give me too much information. Give me enough information for me to be so interested that I want to schedule a phone call with you, right? So that's my suggestion. Of course, everything you guys said is great. I mean, also the founders, they have to do due diligence on the investors, on the, if it's an accelerator, on the topics of the accelerators. What are we passionate about? At the end, we are people, right? These are more like business to business relationship, but at the end of the day, we are still, fortunately, all people. And especially in the early stage situation with our founders, we decide to work and invest in people before then companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll add on this to all the points is that when you do reach out to an investor online through social media, back to Pranav's point of context, is, know what these people are investing in, and don't just send a bland message with a PDF attached and no context as to who you are. And as we've talked about many, many times on VCTV, and all four of my panelists can agree to this, investment is not a short-term thing. It is a long-term thing. This is a relationship development. The idea that we're investing in you is something that is going to be very long-term. And so you should be doing the same with us. If you send an email direct, say, hey, invest, we've never met before. We don't have any context. We don't have that relationship. That's not a good way to begin. Instead, reach out and start building that relationship first. Give it time to develop. And to Alexis's point, if you're in an immediate hurry to raise capital, that's a different story. And in that case, it's best to focus on your current contacts and introductions in that sense, or crowdfunding if it's a suitable window. If not, as we've all stated, build the relationship. Get the chance to know your investors, not only what they focus on, but who they are, and get to know them, what they invest in, ask questions, do your diligence, then start to send those materials. Sending those materials up front actually can be a deterrent versus something that gets them very excited, unfortunately. Not always, but just something to be mindful of as well. Gentlemen, we are close to the top of the hour, and so we are here at our lightning round. Would love to come to each and every one of you for closing thoughts, and also where our entrepreneurs and our investors out there can find you on social media as well. So Alessandro, we'll come back to you to start, any closing thoughts, and then where can everyone find you online to continue this conversation and to potentially pitch you as well?
Yeah, so everybody could definitely find me on LinkedIn, Alessandro Mariano Antoni, and M Accelerator is the company. I receive a lot of pitch decks on LinkedIn. So a quick introduction, a request to connect. Usually with a very short note. Usually you get my attention, and then if I'm really interested, I will book a phone. I will be the one that suggests a phone call. So that's what I do usually.
There you go. You got Alessandro's process. There you go. The full recipe to make it happen. Alexis, to you, closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you online?
Yeah, so the closing, so the social media has some very interesting days ahead for big family offices and corporations. So I think it's a field which is going to expand, and it will be moving from the young generation to the older generation. So the generation issue is not anymore the subject. I think it's going everywhere now. And how to find me, the best is LinkedIn, Alexis Grabar, or my company, Avia Mediatek or CXB Hub. I will respond to emails and pitches as I invest in startups with pleasure.
There you go, 2 for 2 with the recipe. Naveed, closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you online?
Well, I'm pretty much active, and company pages are also pretty much active on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. It's always good to send us an introduction, say hi, hello, and the purpose of a reach out rather than just sending a pitch deck like you mentioned in your face. It's absolutely good to know you before. We usually respond to each and every possible shout out that comes to us. And once the conversation reaches to our social handles, we obviously would take it to emails and to online virtual meetings and discuss things forward. So yes, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook.
Wonderful. Pranav, close us out. Closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you online?
So I'll just throw in a couple of stats that I was reading up before jumping on. Ofcom produced a study earlier this year about children and social media, and we talk about the future. And Alexis mentioned it very rightly. 21% of 8 to 11-year-olds have a social media profile, which increases to 71% of 12 to 15-year-olds. Right? Think about how things are going to change over the course of the next 15 years, right? And I think there's only going to be one answer, right? Harness the power of social media. And Kyle, if you remember, I mentioned one thing about companies in India and companies globally often needing a chief oratory officer, somebody who spins your story, right? Imagine having millions and millions of chief oratory officers through leveraging the power of social media. I can't think of anything better. And at the end of the day, like sort of coming to where you can sort of find us, and adding to what Alessandro said, early stage investing is all about people, right? Reaching out to people, getting to know people, interacting with people, and seeing how you can work together. It's about building long lasting relationships. So when you reach out to us, I'm available on LinkedIn, on Twitter. You can drop me an email, pranav@thinkubate.com, THINQBATE. Always drop a note with a little bit more context, a little bit more of an idea about you as a person, and why you're actually doing what you're doing. Early stage is all about motivation and passion. And if that's not your North Star, then maybe we're not the right people to partner with you at this stage.
And to add on to that, don't hesitate to follow up. Don't get deterred from if an investor doesn't reach back out to you and follow up right away. As we do communicate so much on social media and so many different channels, sometimes things get lost on the weeds and need to be brought back up to the top. That's not saying that it's being ignored or it may not be a fit. Just be mindful that you may have to follow up, just as we have to follow up as well when we are fundraising or when we are reaching out to you as entrepreneurs. As we've all said, it is about building relationships, and sometimes we need to be reminded, and again, things being brought back up to the top. So investors, thank you all so very, very much for joining us today. To our audience, as you heard, you can find our investors everywhere. Their DMs, their inboxes, their in mails, whatever it may be, are completely open, ready to hear, and excited to hear more about you and your pitch and your company as well. And if you like what you heard today, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Also reach out. Again, investors, we'd love to have you on today's show. Thank you, Pranav. Thank you, Alexis. We'd love to have you on a show like today. Thank you, Alessandro, to share your thoughts and insights. Entrepreneurs, as we said, social media, it's the new name of the game. And to Pranav's point, the next 10 to 15 years, think well beyond that. Social media is going to play an enticing role in our lives, whether that's in a physical or a digital world. So prepare yourself. But there's a virtual stage waiting for you. So if you'd like the chance to pitch us investors live and to our entire audience, reach out to Elena, to LA Token, or to myself, and we would love the chance to help you out on that. With that being said, you can find all of us on social media, along with myself at Kyle Ecott. A big thank you to Elena and to the entire LA Token team for always making VCTV possible every day on your screen and your devices anywhere in the world. We've got a packed week. We have another double episode tomorrow, and we've got more on Wednesday, more on Thursday, more on Friday. Tons and tons to cover here this week on VCTV. So get ready, tune in. I'm Kyle Ecott, your